Hello everyone and welcome to my cruise channel. Today we're going to talk about different types of cabins and which one might be best for you and your party while you're traveling on your cruise. But before we get into all that, I must ask, if you like this video, if you find it at all helpful, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Alright, so let's get to it. So usually the cheapest is the inside cabin. Now, I usually recommend this for first-time cruisers, and you'll see why in just a minute. They usually sleep up to about 4 people depending on the layout. However, the downside is there's usually no windows. But if windows are your thing, they're super important. I certainly wouldn't count this type of cabin out because some companies, such as Royal Caribbean, have virtual balconies, which is basically a floor-to-ceiling screen with a live video feed to the outside. And sometimes inside cabins overlook other areas of the ship, such as the promenade, which is the main socialization area that's inside for the passengers. And it's a good choice if you're planning on spending minimal time in your stateroom. The next one would be the ocean views. Now, these cabins tend to be a little bit more expensive than the inside cabins. And like the inside cabins, they tend to sleep up to 4 people, but they do have more space, and there is usually a window involved. Sometimes it's a port key window, which is really a small window. Sometimes it's a little bit larger than that. Again, depends on the cruise line. However, the downside is there's no balcony, but if balconies are important to you, you're going to love my favorite category, which is up next. That's the balcony category. And they do offer a private balcony for up to about 4 people. However, balconies tend to cost more than the ocean views. And they do have chairs and tables out on the balconies. Some companies choose to include a lounger as well. Now, there's an interesting different type of category for the balconies as well. Some overlook the ocean. However, others, such as on Royal Caribbean's Oasis-class ships, tend to overlook the inside of the ship's outdoor venues, such as the boardwalk, which is where my cabin was, or Central Park, something along those lines. And it's kind of interesting because you can see what's going on throughout the ship without really leaving your cabin. So we really enjoyed it. However, because we were near the boardwalk, we could hear everything. We could hear the Aqua Theater, we could hear the carousel, everything. So we're going to get into more detail about all that in just a few minutes. Now, next up is the studio cabins, which are prime cabins if you're going to be a solo cruiser, because they don't have the single supplement fees that some cruise lines include. Some cruise lines will actually charge you double if you're going as a solo cruiser. However, Royal Caribbean does not have supplemental fees if you book a studio cabin. However, if you are going solo and you want a studio cabin, you have to book this as soon as you possibly can because these types of cabins are very rare and not every ship has them. Those that do, they often tend to sell out of this cabin very quickly due to the high demand. Next up is your panoramic view cabins. Now, these types of cabins are unique because they have a large balcony, but they don't have any outdoor space. They're literally floor-to-ceiling windows. And sometimes they have suite benefits involved, which leads us to our next type of cabins, which are usually the most expensive type of cabins, and those are the suites. The suite cabins tend to cost the most, and there's usually a few categories, usually about 2. However, Royal Caribbean has, I think, up to 4 categories, and each of them has their own price range, if you will. So the cheapest of the suite cabins are the junior suites, which basically means that you'll have more room than some of the other categories of cabins, but you may not have as many suite benefits as some of the other cabins in the suite category. Next up is your grand suites. They cost more than the junior suites, and they tend to have full suite benefits. Now, to find out exactly what types of benefits the suite categories have, you'll have to go to your cruise line's website. They'll give you all the details on that. Specifically for Royal Caribbean, they have the Royal Loft Suites, which sleep up to 6, and they tend to have a large window and a private balcony. Then they have the Ultimate Family Suites, which includes games like air hockey, table tennis, that sort of thing. And it also features jacuzzis. And just like on some of the other ships, this Ultimate Family Suite is available on the Symphony and the Spectrum of the Seas. Now, Royal Caribbean has another type of suite available, which I would be anxious to try sometime. They have the Aqua Theater Suite, which not only allows you to have views of the ocean, but it allows you to have views of the Aqua Theater, which is available on the Oasis class ships for absolutely free. But if you're in an Aqua Theater Suite, you don't have to fight the crowds and everything on the boardwalk to try and see the Aqua Theater show. Now, there are a few things to keep in mind when choosing a cabin. These include your budgets. The suites tend to cost more than any other type of stateroom. Now, your needs and your preferences. If you're a foodie, do you want to be more near the restaurants, or do you want to be more near the entertainment? For those that have handy-capable needs, do you need to be near the elevator, or does it really matter? And finally, your location. Some of the cabins that tend to be towards the front or the back of the ship tend to be a little bit noisy because of either the entertainment or the engines for the ship. So if you're looking for some peace and quiet, you might want to get a cabin that's more or less towards the center of the ship. And if you're prone to motion sickness, you'll also want to get a cabin that's not only towards midship, but it's on one of the lower decks of the ship to help avoid some of the motion. Another thing to keep in mind too in terms of pricing is cabins that are on lower decks tend to cost less than those that are on higher decks, because the cabins that are on lower decks tend to be the ocean views in the inside cabins, while the higher decks tend to have more balconies and ocean views and things like that. Now, sometimes if you're a loyalty guest member like I am, you also get discounts on certain types of cabins that you book. So whether or not that's something you want to take advantage of is completely up to you. I tend to take advantage when they have sales for the balconies, because we're finding that we need just a little bit more room, and we like having that fresh air available to us. But again, it's all on your preference and whatever works for you. And that's all the tips that I have for now. Again, if you like this video, if you find it at all helpful, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. And don't forget to check out these next videos, because YouTube thinks that they might be useful, and we'll see you soon. Bon voyage!